Good evening, guests, and welcome to the Weekly with Dr. Tom. This is your way to stay up to date with everything healthcare related across the country. In this educational virtual group, we'll explore how to stay fit and maintain a good diet during COVID-19. What types of exercises should you be doing? What types of food should you be eating? And how it'll help you stay healthy during these unprecedented times. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the seminar. Submit your questions throughout by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to hear about how you're doing. We look forward to your feedback and responses to our polls throughout the program. Now, here's Dr. Tom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Weekly. Last week, we took a poll and asked you what you wanted. Diet and exercise was the clear answer, so that's what you're getting. Tonight on the Weekly, we are joined by experts in these two respective fields. But before introducing the first of our guests, I want to, we have a technical glitch. Before introducing the first of our guests, I want to update you on our First Responders episode 2 weeks ago. You will recall our guest, Dr. Don Grisdale, Medical Director of the VGH ICU, speaking so calmly about our situation in BC. As a VGH physician, I see daily stats for VGH and St. Paul's hospitals. I'm delighted to share with you yesterday's numbers. With respect to hospital admissions, you can see a peak that occurred on March 30th and a steady decline since, as well as a steady decline in hospital and ICU bed occupancy by COVID-19 patients. As such, our frontline troops are definitely winning the battle against COVID-19 in the hospitals. The rest of us, including yours truly, need to do our bit, which is to continue to socially isolate, compulsively wash our hands, and wear masks in public. But these, I think you know, are early days. I'm reminded of Winston Churchill's famous line after the Battle of Britain. Now, this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Our first guest is Jonathan Chung, a UBC Kinesiology grad, exercise physiologist, and tech entrepreneur. Jonathan has a long relationship with BC Diabetes. Indeed, he ran the BC Diabetes Gym from 2014 to 2016 and got to know many of you viewers as his clients at that time. Jonathan joins us from Hong Kong, where I know it is rather early in the morning. Jonathan.
Hi, thank you. It's 8 a.m. right now, so it's not too bad.
Jonathan, I don't know what it's like in Hong Kong, but here in BC, most of us have been stuck at home for 3 or more weeks, and we're all wondering how we should keep fit. In fact, in anticipation of your appearance, Wayne Wood, a BC Diabetes client who I know is on the call, sent me this email. Dr. Elliott, during this crisis, I'm finding my blood sugar levels increasing. I'm no longer measuring my dose in units. I'm going by the half gallon. I'm blaming it on lack of exercise. I don't want to go out and socially interact with folks, etc. So we're staying inside a lot. I've developed an exercise program which consists of fridge to TV set to the bathroom, return to fridge, and repeat.
Oh.
I don't think it's working. Jonathan, what's your advice for Wayne and others like him?
Well, first of all, when you're working out from home, there's actually a lot of stuff that you can do. You have a lot of, you can use chairs, tables, ledges, stairs. It's pretty much up to your imagination on what you can do. The most important thing is to know that you have the motivation to do it, I'd say, and stick to a proper plan. So today, what I wanted to talk about was actually the most important thing is that you could be focusing on before, like while you guys are locked in at home, in anticipation of maybe going back into the gym in a couple of weeks, right? Did you want me to get into that right now, or do you?
I think we'd love nothing more than to hear your wisdom on that big subject, Jonathan. Please tell us.
Right. Okay. So my background was more in post-rehab related stuff. So what I have seen is a lot of injuries from people that actually go to the gym, but they don't take care of their bodies enough so that they end up getting injured. And then what happens is they're more they have such a long time frame of recovery that they're not actually improving as they want to. So I see COVID-19 and social distancing as a good opportunity to focus on those areas that we generally never focus on in the gym, such as mobility and flexibility, such as improving like the weak areas of our body, like our core, improving proper movement patterns. So I personally feel like those are the most important things that you can actually be focused on right now. I've also prepared like 2 slides where the first slide is just like a general overview of why these are important things, like why mobility and flexibility, why progressing through exercises properly are important, and also a set of exercises that you guys can do at home. I don't know if I can share that on this chat right now, or how does that work? Oh.
We can all see it on the screen, Jonathan.
Okay, yeah. So the reason why this is so important, it's because the range of motion that you're doing with any exercise is, the bigger the range of motion, I personally say is better, like as long as you guys aren't overextending yourself. And when you guys are at the gym, what happens is you often find yourself restricted in what you can do in the gym. So at home, what you could do is focus more on stretching. You can use the door frames to stretch out your chest. You can use assistances with towels and whatnot to stretch out your legs. You can focus on areas that are generally very tight for you. So your hips. Your hips are generally the most often unbalanced areas of your body. So that is a area that I would definitely focus on. But I would actually prefer for people to maybe message me directly or ask me specifically what they would like to focus on, because everyone's different. So it's kind of difficult to say what you should do at home. Ancillary exercises are like things that sort of connect your whole body together. So for example, you have primary exercises when you're doing like a push-up. You might actually be engaging like 10 different other exercises, like or muscle groups that you're not generally focused on. So when you actually start work, like when you're doing a push-up, your back is actually very involved in it as well. People might hurt their lower back because their core is not engaged properly, right? So during this time, actually maybe improving those areas are a strong positive. The other thing is exercise progression. So for example, when you're doing a squat, there is like one squat can be modified a million different ways based on your experience level. So from doing a quarter squat to a full squat to jump squats to burpees even, right? It depends on your own expertise and your own fitness levels. So what I just wanted to get through is that during this period of time, like the most important thing is to understand improving your weakest links in your body, improving your mobility and your flexibility, and then working on having proper movement patterns and like the most basic exercises, so that you can actually improve at a much faster rate when you do end up going back to the gym, right? So what I plan to do is actually to maybe film these movements and like these exercises later on today, because I think that might be a bit easier than me demonstrating now. But the exercises here are all for those purposes that I just mentioned. It's to build up proper muscle groups and movement patterns, and to actually understand how to improve and progress through simple movements to more difficult movements, and show that you can have a lot of variety even in one single exercise. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Jonathan. And the production staff will no doubt figure a way of getting these videos to our viewers. Jonathan, I don't hear you talking about cardio. Should we be worrying about cardio when we're at home? And if so, what do you recommend? I'm a cyclist, and I know I can go out in the dark of night when no one's around and ride. What about if people, you know, aren't used to doing cardio, but they're doing much less because of social isolation? What can they do at home in their living room?
Cardio, of course, is very important. It depends on, it depends on your ability and what you like to do. So sticking to a cardio type of workout that you're more likely to do is more important than the type of cardiovascular workout you're doing. Otherwise, you will never adhere to it, right? Walking, you know, is very important. Like, but mainly what you want to do is play with intensity. So when you do any type of cardio, you want to make sure that you're doing it to a level that stimulates your body to improve. So if you're just walking every day for 5 years, but you're not trying to maybe increase the pace every week or like increase the distance every week a little bit, then you might want to rethink on how do you actually, like, where's your target and how do you want to measure your improvements? So whether maybe you're working at the same intensity and your heart rate is not, you know, going up so crazy. So maybe you have to find a way to measure your aerobic exercise. Cardio is very important, I'd say. But there's also cardio that you can do at home, hypothetically, because last time I was in Canada, it was snowing. So I remember you can't really go outside when it's snowing, I would assume, or cycling, right? So you can actually do a lot of full body workouts at home. And that is still cardiovascular in terms of, you know, your rest is less, you're doing more body weight exercises. That would help with cardiovascular improvement.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. We're going to take a break now and go to a hand washing video by Dr. Samuel. We all know that keeping our hands clean is the most important thing other than socially isolating ourselves. Over to you, Praveen.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Praveen Samuel. I'm an orthopedic spine surgeon by training. As you all know, hand washing is key to keeping yourself safe. If your hands are clean, you won't get COVID-19. I'm going to demonstrate to you the World Health Organization, WHO's technique for hand washing. It is a technique that surgeons across the world use before scrubbing up for their surgeries. First, wet both your hands completely with water. Apply enough soap to cover all hand surfaces. Then, rub your hands together, palm to palm. Right palm over left hand dorsum with fingers interlaced. Left palm over right hand dorsum with fingers interlaced. Palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Tips and backs of fingers on opposing palm, both hands. Rotational rubbing of left thumb in right palm. Rotational rubbing of right thumb in left palm. Rotational rubbing forwards and backwards of opposing palm, both hands. Now, rinse your hands with water and use a single-use dry towel to dry both hands. Use the same towel to close the faucet. Now, your hands are safe. Back to you, Tristan.
Thanks, Praveen. That was fantastic. We're just going to get one quick question from the audience in before we go back to Dr. Elliott. Lana is wondering, or Barb is wondering, if our normal exercise right now is watching TV, is walking the best way to get going?
Yes. I'd say any exercise is good exercise. So if just watching TV, you can definitely stand up, walk around the house, maintain an active lifestyle throughout the day. I think that's probably the best way to go.
Jonathan,
how much per day would you recommend?
As much as possible, usually, but I'd say at least 30 minutes to 40 minutes a day of solid activity, whether it's walking or maybe even going up and down your stairs or doing some manual work, like maybe gardening, There's a whole list of the type of stuff that you can do. They measure it in METs, so metabolic. So I can send that out later. It's like what's the approximate energy burn of certain household activities. There's a big list of that I can send out.
One more question about walking stairs. Is it possible to walk too many stairs, and is it bad for the legs and knees?
I would generally say no, but obviously don't go bounding up and down the stairs if you're unable to do so. There's also differences in going up and going down the stairs. There's also differences in maybe taking two steps at once and really focusing on you can actually really focus on your posture and your form when you're going up and down these stairs to actually really engage the right muscle groups, like your core, making sure your hips are balanced and not uneven when you're going up these stairs. Like, you can actually work out a lot of stuff as you're going upstairs, as long as you're doing it properly. So I wouldn't say you get injured because you go up and down the stairs generally anyways every day. Right.
Thanks, Jonathan. Now back to Dr. Tom.
Thank you, Tristan. Jonathan has kindly agreed to stay around for some more questions while we introduce our second guest. Our second guest is Lana Danielis, a dietitian who has been in the business for 35 years. Although I've never met Lana in person, it feels like I know her well after having spoken with her on the phone yesterday, and more importantly, having tasted a number of her delicious diabetes-friendly recipes at BC Diabetes Lunch and Learns over the last few months. Lana has a private dietetic practice, loves her work, and wants nothing more than to help people feel good through achieving health goals they've set for themselves. She also teaches cooking and nutrition classes at Dogwood Community Centre in Coquitlam. Lana, welcome to the Weekly.
Hello, nice to see you.
Lana, it's so great of you to come on the program. All of us at home are very keen to hear your words of wisdom. What is your message for us all cloistered at home during COVID-19?
Well, Jonathan had great ideas for what to do regarding exercise. I totally agree with him. I use my backyard as it's an up yard because I live in a mountain. So I have to climb upstairs. So I'm using that as a running up. And for food, yes, I am the grocery shopper, and you need to have certain staples in your house to not have to go out too often. And so I've come up with a few handouts for the crowd on kitchen essentials and pantry essentials that I feel are important, and for the diabetic population or pre-diabetic population, to focus on more lower carbohydrate foods. I just wanted to make a slight correction. The foods that you have been tasting are from SugarFree IQ, which is where my office resides, but I am not an owner or the dietitian there. So just that. And I'm going to share the screen because I do have documents to share and I'd like to go over them. But sorry for my lesson there. It's not there. I'll have to go get it. But it is a nice folder. It's handouts. Here we go. And so I don't know if this is too large or if you want me to do it in a smaller screen view. Full screen is, oh no, what did I do? Yeah, there we go. So that's a kitchen essential handout, dry storage, freezer and refrigerator, your veggies. I mean, this is the time where you can spoil yourself a little on boxed or bag greens because it's safer. I know that there are the markets that are questionable right now because they're so open. And I know one of my favorite little stores got closed, Kins. So we're back to the grocery stores. Blue screens. all of these are low carb, good for you, filled with all the nutrients you need as far as vitamins. Broccoli, carrots, cauliflower, cabbage, all of these are also low carb, zucchini, peppers, and fresh is good. But if you go over to the freezer section, you can also buy frozen. Please remember, frozen is got the same nutrient quality as fresh, and sometimes better than if it had traveled the distance. So, don't stress over that, and actually having some frozen things in the house if you do have the space. In Vancouver, we are space compromised. I am, and so you have to do a half and half. Put some things in your freezer. Now, when we talk about basil cubes and garlic cubes and things like this, it's things you can do for yourself. You can chop garlic and anything else and put them into freezer trays and then have it saved for you, and then you can just throw it into a stir fry or whatever else you're making. You can also freeze quinoa once it's cooked, or rice. You can put it in the freezer and you have it ready for you. So you don't have to stress, and I know the stress of mothers and children right now and what to cook for dinner must be mind-blowing. Mine are growing up and they take their turns cooking dinner, but Lord in heaven, it must be very terribly stressful. And stress is another thing that we want to avoid for anyone, but our cortisol levels go up and we tend to store fat, and we don't want that. So animal proteins, fish is the best, of course, for omega-3s and lean and all of that. And then lean meats are also appropriate. If you do want prepared foods, read the packages, and I have put together a little list for that. Then outside that, how do I scroll down? It is not working for me. It's all supposed to scroll down. This is not my thing. The check. Here we go. I have a pantry. Where's my pantry? There we go. In the pantry, we have things that everybody can eat, and it is also is requested. Sure, you go ahead, Luke. I love it when somebody else takes over. Canned beans are great, and if you're doing your own dried beans, you can soak them, cook them, and then put them in the freezer also. So don't forget that. They freeze well. Whole grains, better for you. I'm really pushing fiber here for everybody in case they don't get that message. Most of us don't get enough fiber. We get an average of 15 grams, and people need between 25 to 30 some. If you're male, it's over 30, and if you're female, it's about 25 grams of fiber. And if you're diabetic, fiber is your friend because it does slower the release of sugar in your blood. It keeps it more steady. So these are all important things, even when you're at home, stuck at home. It's not the time to go crazy on this baking, comfort baking. And you can try out all whole wheat recipes. You can try out other kind of recipes, almond flour, things like this, because these will be better for you and still tasty. And then, we have nuts and seeds and peanut butter and all the other things that are staples in the pantry. These are important for you because it makes us making a sandwich easier, making other things easier for you and your families. And even if you're just single, it just makes your life easier and you don't stress about food. And I feel that the list is pretty comprehensive. It is very fibery. No, I did that one. Yeah. The nutrients for life, these are necessary. I want to focus right now on water. Most people don't drink enough water. They think coffee's fine. Coffee's dehydrating, so that doesn't really count. tea, if it's herbal, is great, but it's so important for us to drink our water, and it's been warm this week. And so my head is already thinking towards the warmer months, optimist that I am. But if you think it eliminates all the waste from your body, it lubricates your joints, and it maintains your healthy tissue. These are things that are really important, and you can do spring water, but you know, don't focus on fruit juices or anything like that. They will cause you more harm than good. Water is a savior for your body, and most people don't realize that. And then carbohydrates, as I said, I focus more on the lower carb vegetables and fruits. And protein you do need, and you need to combine it in your diabetic plans with fat and carbs. And the vitamins and minerals come in from eating these foods. And if you don't eat a varied diet, you'll be missing minerals and vitamins. And so I just wanted to give this as a snapshot of why we eat what we eat and, you know, where it comes from. And then lastly, I have a mindful versus mindless eating. And right now we can be more mindlessly eating than mindfully, because we don't know what to do with ourselves, and we're stressed and we're worried about a lot of things. Financial is a big thing. How long is this going to last is another. And so if we're using food as a reward right now for making it through another day, if we're labeling food as good or bad and restricting, oh no, I shouldn't be eating this, and that's really mindless. And if you're just waiting till you're starving before you actually go and eat something, or you eat when you're not hungry. These are, you know, sometimes you wouldn't think that was mindless, but it is. Eat while watching TV is, I think, really a norm in North America. Using your phone or working on your computer and eating is mindless. And if you ignore your fullness cues and continue to eat, and then you realize, oh, my stomach hurts, I ate too much, that's mindless. You need to sit down and just focus on what you're eating, on how it tastes, and enjoy what you're eating, and acknowledge, you know, that this is, you know, I'm lucky to have this food, and I am hungry right now, and this is the time to eat, and be more mindful in your process. And this will help you control the cravings and control what you're putting in your body. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Lana. I have a confession to make to all of my clients who are on the webinar tonight, and to every dietitian. Lana, for the longest time, I thought that the diet wasn't that important, but the big change occurred a couple of years ago when continuous glucose meters became widely spread, and it was so clear that what we ate had such a big effect on our blood sugars after the meal. So now, with every patient I've seen since the new year, I say to them, would you like to hear my New Year's resolution? And the patients, who are all very polite, say yes. And then I say, well, it's to remind myself and my staff and my clients and their loved ones that the most important treatment for diabetes is not pills, it's not fast insulin, it's not long insulin, it's not semaglutide, it's actually diet. It's smaller portions and less starch. So Lana, can you please tell me, how can I be practical when I ask my clients to eat smaller portions and less starch? Do you have any specific advice for them on that?
Well, as a person who was a carbaholic, an Italian who loved white bread and pasta, and was growing up on it, yes, I watched all of my relatives turn diabetic at 60. It was like the magic number. And my dad. And I think my grandfather was the only one who controlled it by diet, by walking miles. And nobody else was that active. And I knew that was going to come to me. And I changed my lifestyle to lower carb as well, and no white flour. And I'm gluten-free actually, and minimal sweets. As far as that, I use the sweeteners and nut flours, and I'm fine. And I'm past the marker. So I'm a real strong proponent of that. And I have had clients also who have succeeded in eating well on a lower carb. However, I do understand that for some, this lifestyle change is next to unfathomable for them. And we do, as a dietitian, I believe that my job is to help the person reach their goal based on their lifestyle. So that just means, it would start with vegetables, maybe with lower glycemic, with using the glycemic index and showing them, okay, this is lower. And we had a discussion with the glucose monitor. These are great tools to help people understand why food is going to affect you the way it is. You try it and eat it, but you're not gonna, people who don't want to, I think it's the people who aren't on insulin yet and don't want to get there that are the ones that we can reach the best. But people on insulin even reduce their insulin eating a lower carbohydrate diet. So, and the studies are just coming out now because, this has been such a long process. There haven't been enough studies, but they are coming out on the benefits of a lower carbohydrate diet. So, if they want evidence-based, then they should look at the, ask me, ask a dietitian, ask you for the evidence-based, read the studies themselves. Or I'm happy to explain to somebody how to read and get the information based not on Dr. Google, but on evidence-based information. So.
Thank you, Lana. I want to do one more plug for the CGM. Every person who is a BC Diabetes client gets an email inviting them to this, and that includes the Minister of Health, Adrian Dix. Adrian, I don't know if you're on the show, but our wish for you to cover CGM and Flash for every British Columbian living with diabetes has not changed. If you've never used one of these devices, we will have a session, a webinar on CGM later. It's a fantastic tool to show you how your body handles whatever you eat. Lana hasn't said there are any prohibitions on food. So as far as I'm concerned, you can eat whatever you want, but watch what happens after the meal. If your sugar goes high, it doesn't work for you. And even if you're eating virtuously with low carb, perhaps that means you need some insulin now. Lana, I know that there are a lot of questions from the viewers, and those also include questions for Jonathan, our exercise expert. Tristan, back to you.
Okay, first question is from Karen to Lana. If you could only eat a single meal for the rest of your life, what would it be, taking health into context?
Putting health into context? I would eat salmon and asparagus.
That sounds pretty good.
I mean, grilled. Okay, roasted asparagus and a barbecued salmon. Yes, and I do make a nice basil dressing on top of it. There, that's what I would eat. Okay,
thank you, Lana. Now, Dr. Elliott, we've had quite a popular question that a number of guests have echoed, wanting to hear the answer to. It's long. It's from Adam. It goes, I'm finding as I'm working from home, I'm more stagnant during the day than usual. So come my evening exercise time, which is usually biking and more recently running, my levels are dropping more than ever when I exercise. I'm doing all my usual tricks of pre-dropping my basal rates and taking carbs before the workout, but I'm ultimately having to carb load during the exercise to stop this happening, which then makes it so I have a poor workout. Is there either a particular type of exercise or a pre-workout food that you could recommend to help stop this from happening? To Dr. Tom.
Adam, that is a fantastic question. Now, we've got two experts, one in diet and one in exercise. So I'm going to leave them to talk about the type of exercise or the type of food. But as a diabetes specialist, I can tell you that if your sugar is going low, you've got too much insulin in your body. I presume, I do know an Adam who has type 1 diabetes, and every person with type 1 takes a little bit of insulin all the time to stop their muscles and liver producing too much sugar. And then they take, that's called basal insulin. And then they take they take fast insulin every time they eat to control the peak. So Adam, I suspect that you've got too much basal insulin in you, and having diabetes is tough. Having type 1 diabetes is particularly tough, but there's been a revolution in technology in the last few years, not just the arrival of CGM, but the arrival of amazing insulin pumps that can actually switch off your basal insulin if your sugar's going down. They're called hybrid closed loop pumps, and they're available and covered by BC Pharmacare if you get me to fill in all the right forms. So for anybody who's having the same problem as Adam, you're adjusting your food, you're adjusting your diet, you're adjusting your exercise, you're still low even though you're giving less and less insulin, the answer for you is one of the new hybrid closed loop pumps in combination with the CGM. Lana, and please, and also Jonathan, please give your 2 bits on choosing the right diet and exercise.
Well, I know the carb loading is important before your workout, not during, as far as that is concerned.
I would say that what I would recommend is definitely like have your snacks available, like just around as a safety precaution if you require. But in terms of the actual exercising, before you dive like head into your cycling routine, generally what we would recommend is extending your warm-up period. So if your warm-up is, usually people's warm-up is like 0 warm-up. So ideally you might actually want to spend like 15 minutes to really slowly get into the rhythm of things. And then during that process, you can monitor and sort of feel whether this is going to be a good workout or not. You can definitely monitor that before you actually go into the workout. You can get your mind ready, get your muscles ready. And that warm-up period is quite important because it does dictate how well your workout's going to be. So I would say extend your warm-up and make sure that everything feels good and ready to rock during that time.
Thanks, everyone. Great answers. Dr. Elliott, the next question is from Carter. Is now a good time to start CGM? And can you explain why you've described it as quote unquote revolutionary?
Well, Carter, thank you for that. Of course, it's my favorite topic. Now is the best time to start. The longer you put it off, the longer you don't get the benefits. These devices can be ordered online, and assuming that the couriers are still working, that it'll be delivered to your doorstep the next day. If you have problems figuring it out, then our staff are here to help you. Of course, when BC Diabetes is open for business physically, currently our doors are closed and we're doing everything virtually, but when we're open for business, then of course you can drop around to our offices anytime and we will set you up. That was the first question was when is the time, and the time is now. And what was the second bit, Tristan, can you remind me?
Can you explain why you call it quote unquote revolutionary?
Okay, well, because it suddenly becomes so obvious what needs to be done. So for instance, let's say you're wearing one of these devices and it shows that your sugar is very high after lunch. So in the bad old days, the only way you knew what your sugar was after lunch was to poke your finger, and no one wants to poke their finger. So if your sugar's high after lunch, the first thing to ask yourselves is, what did I eat for lunch? and Lana has already addressed this. By eating smaller portions, by reducing the carbs, you can dramatically lower the peak after the meal. So that is revolutionary, that this could be in the hands of everybody who has one of these devices. My job as an opinion leader and as a diabetes specialist is to make sure that everybody can afford one of these. That's why I take Minister Dix up to task on this subject. So let's say you've had a small portion, you haven't had any starch, your sugar's still too high. Well, that means your body doesn't make enough insulin. So then you either need a pill, but generally you need a shot of rapid insulin. That's what insulin is for, and that's why I have a staff with 8 case managers and physician assistants, and we're all here to help you start insulin, and if you're already on insulin, to get you on the right dose. So the ability to answer these questions, Carita, is what is revolutionary. I didn't mention, what happens if your sugar's low overnight? If your sugar's low overnight, it means you're on too much long-acting insulin. Long-acting insulin is typically something like insulin glargine. You need to take less. If your sugar's too high overnight, you need to take more. So we always know the answer with CGM. It's a revolution.
Thanks, Dr. Tom. The next question is from Cindy, and it's directed at Lana. Lana, I'm a mother of 4 young kids. Could you give me a good, healthy, cheap meal that I could feed them on a regular basis?
Are you including yourself?
Yes, for me, my husband, and our 4 young kids.
It could be a ground turkey taco bowl with, a cauliflower rice, or it could be, because ground turkey is not that expensive, or a lean ground beef. I could send you some recipes if you'd like. I could send them on the magic link that people do on bcdiabetes.ca. That would be one of mine. Cheap meals otherwise. If they like whole wheat, whole wheat pasta is not so great. But I mean, for kids, they just don't like it. It's an acquired taste. I have, I would say a more casserole dish or a stir fry are the more cheaper dishes, because you can pick any vegetable. I use bok choy or gai lan here in Vancouver. I don't tend to use the bean sprouts, but other veggies, so onion, celery, gai lan, and bok choy is what I used yesterday with tofu. I marinated the tofu in peanut butter, baked it, and threw that in and made a little peanut sauce. So that's not very expensive at all. And
Thank you,
everybody
Lana.
ate it. So
Fantastic. Thank you. The next question is for Jonathan. Jonathan, could you explain what you mean by an aerobic workout?
An aerobic workout is anything that you aim to improve your cardiovascular ability, I would say. So that's your heart health, but it's also how well you provide blood to your working muscles. So how efficient you are as a unit to take in oxygen and to get your muscles working in a proper order. So there's aerobic workouts and there's anaerobic workouts. So an aerobic workout is generally you're working at a lower level and you can actually supply your muscles with oxygen, versus an anaerobic workout is, for example, high intensity interval training where you're gasping for air, which is a sign that your body is at an oxygen deficit, so it needs to catch up. So an aerobic workout is generally right at that level where you're still able to give oxygen to your body and to move appropriately. So for example, brisk walking, running, cycling, swimming, these are all very good aerobic exercises.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. The next question is from Michael. Dr. Elliott, do fresh food that have past expiration dates tend to have a higher concentration of sugar? I'm thinking of the brown banana being sweeter. Is there anything to that?
What do they say? Banana ripe, she tastes like honey. Is that Harry Belafonte from the 50s?
Yeah.
Most of the viewers won't remember that, but there's no doubt that as fruits go off, they become more sugary. Lana, perhaps you can expand on that for us.
Yes, I agree with you. That is true. The more ripe, the more sugar. So that doesn't mean you have to eat unripe. It just means you have to eat just right. Unfortunately, it's like avocados. You know, you don't catch them right, they're gone. So, but.
And, you know, getting back to my point about CGM that Carter raised earlier,
tell you.
You know, no food is forbidden. If you can figure out a way, if you can eat, you know, two overripe bananas, take the right amount of insulin without going low, then that's fine by me. So that's the miracle of CGM. Of course, the rapid insulins aren't quite fast enough yet. We're waiting for some new developments there.
Dr. Elliott, the next question is from Dina. I'm told by everyone to exercise and it will bring your glucose levels down, but that doesn't happen for me. Mine are always high. It doesn't matter what I eat, or if I haven't eaten before exercise, my glucose levels spike high after exercise. Why does exercise spike my glucose level and not bring them down?
Dina, that's a great question. I'm going to start the answer and I think Jonathan's going to finish it. So, number one, if your sugar's going high, your body is unable to make sufficient insulin. It's not quite that simple. Insulin's the only hormone that makes your sugar go down. There are a whole host of hormones that make the sugar rise. And that would be adrenaline or epinephrine, glucagon, growth hormone, cortisol, the stress hormone that Lana talked about earlier. So if you exercise really hard, like you're doing an anaerobic exercise, as Jonathan talked about, something that makes you gasp, then your body releases all these hormones that antagonize, that work against insulin. So the bottom line, quick and dumb answer from the diabetologist is that I think you need to lower the intensity of your exercise, if that's the issue. And then let's of course you need a CGM, and then perhaps we can help you with medication and insulin adjustment, or even one of these magic new pumps that has hybrid closed loop functionality. But Jonathan, what do you advise for people whose sugars spike with exercise?
What I would say is that generally what they do show is that resistance training, it improves insulin sensitivity, is what I learned. So maybe through a longer term period of like as you said, lower intensity, but as you're actually progressing throughout your whole exercise program, you're definitely gonna have changes in the way your hormone responses to exercise, right? And your muscles will become more sensitive to sugar. From what I said, it pulls more sugar into the muscles as it becomes more sensitive. So I would say lower intensity is great. Focus on resistance training and do it at a more controlled pace. And then to actually monitor how you progress throughout your whole training cycle, because then you'll see how you can adjust your response after.
Thank you, Jonathan. Elaine Ye just asked a question about whether there are any diabetes camps for adults. And I'm just going to make a statement. We weren't going to announce it until next week, but BC Diabetes at the start of May is going to be announcing a course that is going to be of direct interest to you, Elaine. So look for that at the start of May. The next question is from Donald. Jonathan, It's difficult to get my heart rate up because I take beta blockers, which also seem to cause shortness of breath. I am told they are vasoconstrictors. Am I still getting a good benefit walking and using the treadmill?
You should definitely keep exercising for sure. So walking and using the treadmill, if you have a treadmill at home, that's great, but I wouldn't be too concerned about whether you're getting your heart rate up, but maybe don't use your heart rate as the metric of which you're measuring the intensity level of your exercise, because that might be skewed. Maybe use your rate of exertion. So how difficult you feel like you're working, and how. So you can actually measure your intensity approximately by your breathing. So if you're starting to gasp, if you're starting to lose your breath, so you can use that stuff as a metric to measure your intensity rather than your heart rate levels getting up to a certain level. So I would use other ways to measure your intensity, but don't not walk and don't not exercise if that's preventing you.
Thank you, Jonathan. The next question is from Larnie. They want to ask Lana, I am having anxiety now. By the way, many of us are having anxiety. These are very difficult times. They want to know what food to eat to tame this anxiety. Lana.
Wow. What food? I'm going to think about this. I can't give a straight off answer. There are foods that will make you more jittery. So, you know, if you strip out the caffeine and chocolate, these things will, you know, take out the caffeine that's going to make you more jittery. I don't know how many more cups of coffee you might be drinking versus being somewhere else, as well as any black teas. I would also say, you know, if you upped your tryptophan or serotonin, eat more turkey, more banana, more anything that has serotonin, tryptophan in it for increasing your serotonin, feel-good hormone and calming hormone. That might be a good idea. But I would have to go back and look at what other foods might trigger anxiety or would not trigger anxiety. For all intents and purposes, I know that, you know, if you meditate and do yoga, these type of things really help reduce anxiety, and also writing down why am I anxious and what is it that I'm anxious about and what's the next step I do? What step can I take right now? Or what am I in control of this particular situation? If you aren't, you're gonna have to let it go. I mean, these are things that, you know, even I have had to go through, but I know that, you know, certain foods could trigger, you know, a little bit more jitteriness, but I think that there are a lot of methods to reduce anxiety that aren't food related.
Thanks, Lana. We have a couple questions left. Dr. Elliott, what medications should we store at home as a precautionary measure for this situation, considering weak immune and high risk in diabetics of catching any infection?
That's a good question. Just to restate it, what medication should we store because we're at greater risk of getting this or that? Well, firstly, I would say, you know, if you're doing a good job with your blood sugar, you are not at increased risk of infection, and providing you haven't got significant damage to the kidneys or your heart or your lungs. Beyond that, I don't think you need to store up on any specific medication other than your regular medication. I'm aware that during these times, pharmacies are only dispensing 1 month at a time. That is distressing, I know, to a number of clients because they've emailed me. Not only does it mean more visits to the pharmacy, but it also means more dispensing fees. So I think my short answer is you don't need to stock up on anything other than your routine medication.
Thanks, Dr. Elliott. The next question is from Alan for you again. Is there a way to lessen irritation from CGM adhesives? I've used a variety of Tegaderm type tapes with some success, but I still have marks many months later. Have you heard of anything?
I believe that about 10% of our clients who use CGM do have hypersensitivity to the adhesives. So the first thing I would recommend is to change brands. Currently, there are only 2 CGMs or Flash on the market. There will be a third one coming out shortly. So change brands to see if that works. One solution that we've had significant success with is to put Tegaderm underneath the, on the skin, with a little hole in where the Teflon sleeve is going to get inserted into our skin. So most of the skin is sheltered from the actual adhesive from the CGM, other than the tiny little hole where you apply it. So that has proven effective for a number of our patients. And after that, you know, the use of topical anti-inflammatory creams such as steroid creams, though this is out of my league, but does remind me that we're anticipating having a family physician as a guest in our future visits, and the family physician or even a dermatologist will be able to address these issues.
2 more questions. Jonathan, what is a good YouTube site for fitness training for a couple in their 70s? Do you have any advice?
Not off the top of my head, but I can look at some videos today and find some better channels that might be appropriate for that purpose. Yeah, but not off the top of my head. I don't really know any YouTube channels.
We will be able to provide an answer to that next Thursday. We'll look into that. Last question from Deepali. Hi, Lana. Is it true that eating more fiber may have an impact on increasing iron or other vitamin deficiencies?
On increasing deficiencies or increasing?
On increasing iron or other vitamin deficiencies.
I would have to look that up. I can't answer that off the top of my head. But fiber is strictly for moving things through the body and feeding your gut microbiome. So the soluble fiber feeds the gut and keeps it healthy. So that's probably improving absorption. So in some instances, yes. And the other part is, you know, just keeping everything running smoothly.
Okay, we have one last special question. A guest would like to know, Dr. Elliott, how you're finding doing constant video conferencing. How different is it?
Well, it is exhausting. You know, some patients do Zoom, some patients do telephone. So I've actually got 2 Bluetooth headsets. I've got very good staff who do most of the heavy lifting. Most clients actually find it quite satisfactory, and so by and large, I'm happy with it because we have no other choice. But the Zoom is an excellent medium, and that's what we're using tonight. Telephone it also works for those who don't have Zoom. So by and large, it's a big success, and I suspect even when COVID-19 is over that we're going to be doing a lot more virtual care. Tristan, I know we're about to close, but can you tell the viewers how they're going to get access to the handouts from Lana and Jonathan?
So if you go on the BC Diabetes website, we're going to have those up tomorrow by around noon, and we're going to come up with a mechanism for getting you handouts the same day going forward. At this time, we want to thank our partners, Jonathan, Lana, and of course you, our beloved audience. Have a lovely rest of your week and weekend.